I'm Dr. Julie Meachen. I am a professor of anatomy at Des Moines University, and I'm also one of the senior editors for the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology, the junior senior editor right now.
My name is Dr. Mike Demick, and I am a professor of biology at Adelphi University, and I am one of the senior editors at JVP as well.
We are all vertebrate paleontologists. Our mission is to forward the science of vertebrate paleontology. It's also to make sure that fossils stay in the public trust. So our goal as a society is to just appreciate the resources of vertebrate paleontology, protect those resources, and scientific discovery and scientific research on vertebrate paleontology.
We believe that fossils are our shared heritage, the shared heritage of humanity, so they should belong to everyone. And so we have bylaws and ethics guidelines that discuss best practices for dealing with fossils, repositing fossils, accessing fossils. And for science, a hypothesis needs to be testable. And to be testable, we need to access the data over and over and over again in perpetuity.
There are different kinds of fossil hunters here. Some are amateurs that do it for pleasure, and some of them work with scientists. And then we also have treasure hunters here in the United States. So people that go out with the express desire to find fossils to sell them for money. In our profession, some amateur collectors, the ones that like to work with scientists, are invaluable for helping us collect specimens and finding new sites and new specimens.
Historically, maybe the majority, if not the vast majority of fossil discoveries are done by non-professionals just because they outnumber us so much. The Society of Vertebrate Paleontology is not just professional paleontologists. There are avocational members, there are artists, members of the public. It's really just folks who have an enthusiasm for the science of paleontology and building those collaborations between professional and avocational paleontologists. Probably the majority of the Society's professionals. The science of paleontology is growing, I would say. The rate of discovery is faster than it has ever been. So the golden age of paleontology was not the Gilded Age. It was not the gold rush. It's right now, where there's, for example, there's a new dinosaur species named about every other week right now. That's just dinosaurs. I'm not counting the fossil mammals, birds, plants, snails, you name it. There's really an insane rate of discovery that can actually be hard to keep up with as a professional.
You know, a lot of times they will name a new species. If it's not a new genus, they'll name it as an established genus, but then they'll find all sorts of creative ways to name it as a species. There are many different ways. You could name it after the locality it was found in. You could name it after somebody who was important in the field. Those are kind of the old school, a little more prosaic ways of naming fossils. And then there's been quite a rash of new fossils named after movie characters or critters that are not real, that they kind of look like. For example, there is, I believe it's a dinosaur named after the character Zool in Ghostbusters. So there are lots of different ways to name a species.
There's a long tradition outside of dinosaur paleontology, but even within dinosaur paleontology, of naming genera and species after Lord of the Rings characters. Those are very popular. The Marvel movies have had an impact. So I think there's a Thanos, for example, genus. So there are pop culture sorts of references as well. And another shift, I would say, or another growing thing is naming genera or species after the indigenous names in an area. And so that's done, and we encourage with the collaboration with local authorities on that.
We have so many different submissions from different people on different subjects. Our journal does get a lot of alpha taxonomy, so description of new species. We do get a lot of that, but we get a lot of other things too. We get studies on, locomotor modes. We get studies on trace fossils. We get studies on environmental reconstructions. Pretty much almost everything that's in the field of vertebrate paleontology, we get a little bit of. With the advent of new techniques, we find that questions are being re-asked and new techniques are being applied to those questions that give us insight that we didn't have before. For example, one technique that's definitely been used a lot are things like finite element analysis, which it's an engineering technique. It basically shows like the stress and strain that a structure can support or withstand. And so these things are being applied to biological specimens. They're being applied to fossils for things like, how much jaw strength did, the saber-toothed cat have, that kind of thing.
There are a few forefronts that are affecting the field really broadly. One is certainly AI, and we are getting more and more manuscripts that specifically use deep learning algorithms to try to classify things. So classifying different types of footprints or claws or teeth. So that's a huge advance in the field because fundamentally taxonomy is the bedrock of our field. What species is what? Where did it live? When did it live? That's the data. Those are the data that inform everything else. So AI has certainly had an impact in that way. And then the final forefront is molecular paleontology, I would say, where people are looking at the preservation of different molecules deeper and deeper in time. Things like different types of protein that can survive longer than had previously been thought, depending on different conditions. So really pushing that back into the past is a big forefront. Dinosaur paleontology, mammalian paleontology, and really, I think those are three areas that are really going to push the field forward in the next 10 years. There's a great importance in networking and mentorship that takes place at the annual conference. And so I think it really stokes a lot of innovation and collaboration that otherwise might not occur. Students get the chance to present their new data, their new ideas. Early career scientists get a chance to develop networks and collaborations, and then senior scientists get to participate in all of that as well. So it's really it's a really important venue for stoking the fire of that innovation and collaboration each year.
Every meeting I learn some new interesting thing going on in paleontology, these new techniques that Mike was mentioning. I learn about those kinds of techniques and like how they're being used every year at the meeting. And mostly that's driven by the younger generation of paleontologists, the students, the postdocs, the early career scientists, because they really are the forward thinkers in the field, and they really do inspire all of us to start using these new techniques. And like Mike said, it's really important that we get the older scientists, the established scientists together with those young minds, because they've got the cool ideas. The established scientists have the connections, they have the networks. And so getting those two groups of people together is so important to keep the field vibrant.
The value in our journal is our history and our community, because the journal was founded in the 1980s. So it has a long, strong history of taxonomic excellence, evolutionary analysis excellence, naming new species. And I think the general reputation is that when species are named or analyzed in our journal, it's done carefully and correctly. So I think that that's an important thing.
Everybody who's a vertebrate paleontologist knows that our journal is the flagship journal of the society, and that if you're going to do important things like describe a new species or talk about the importance of a new species, that our journal is one of those journals that you could absolutely turn to find many of those kinds of papers. So we are always happy to answer questions from a potential author about the topic of their paper, whether they think it's a good fit for our journal. whether we think it's a good fit for our journal, I should say. And, we can even give suggestions as to what other journals would be germane if we did not think that it was a great fit for our journal.
Last year, we developed a community-based English language assistance program. So authors who submit, if they want help with just getting their manuscript in shape, we have 3 editors that will provide that service for free to them. Conservation paleontology, and the understanding that the best way to manage the future is to understand the past. So understanding what processes or patterns led to extinction in the past, well, what's going to happen in the future under different changing conditions of climate or the environment. I think that's a big point that paleontology has to contribute to in terms of the broader science of conservation.
It's a sense of wonder. These are creatures that have, never been seen. Modern humans have never laid eyes on these creatures. In the case of some of the big mammals, modern humans had, but those modern humans have been gone for 12,000 years. So, nobody has seen these animals, and they are the things of fantasy. I mean, when you look at how they look, what they ate, how they ran, sometimes there are no modern analogs. There's nothing alive that looks and runs and acts like that. And it just inspires this sense of awe. It's just incredible. They've been incredibly helpful. And I tell you that even though we have a wonderful editorial staff, having good people at Taylor and Francis makes it so much easier for this process to happen. And we've had people at other journals, other publishers that have not made the process easy. So just want to say thank you to TNF for giving us Matt and Jess. They've been amazing.
Scientific publishing it's been in this state of rapid flux for over a decade. And it will continue to change. So we really appreciate the support and partnership with Taylor and Francis, because we feel like we've had to walk a lot of fine lines in developing the journal and staying true to the mission of the society and promoting paleontology. And we're really proud of the work that we've done with them.